right now I'm in this experiment of really just honoring those rest cycles and then following the creative urges. Because many people, every time I would talk about certain things that I was going to do or I was thinking about doing, they would either not understand or they would give me an advice that was actually counterproductive,
Don't ever, let's talk about advice.
Yeah.
I hate it. Hello, and welcome back or welcome to the podcast Biz on the Brain with your host, me, Annemarie, where we talk about anything and everything related to just being your most authentic and unapologetic self, how we get to that point, how we keep going, because we will constantly, forever be changing and relearning and reacquainting ourselves with ourselves. And that's beautiful and it's fantastic. And I love to just bring curiosity and kindness to all of that and realize the more I was nice to myself and the more I showed compassion and the more I actually let myself be me in all of the ways I have my own very individual self-perception and expression in the ways I see the world, it inspires other people. It magnetizes the right kind of people who affirm that and like that to me, instead of just attracting the people who will list all of the things that I'm flawed and I could be changing, and the people who will tell you all of your flaws and how you need to work on those instead of honing your actual skills, because we all have a very special magic sauce, special skills, special way of seeing the world. And instead of focusing on that, I attracted the wrong kind of people. And so I'm working on that. And as I'm doing this, I decided to go and create a podcast where I talk with other people who are on their own kind of self-discovery journey or just are willing to share about their journey so far in whatever way that shows up. So we can learn from them as well, because that's how I learn the best, through externalizing my own thoughts, hearing them out loud, and then, kind of being a mirror of myself. But I need to put it out there because I have ADHD. My brain will all day long give me scenarios, will have like a soundtrack and narration and all kinds of busy things to keep me in a thought loop. And that will keep me paralyzed. And that's kind of, I guess, what my nervous system wants me to do, be in a safe zone. But that's not where I want to stay. So by putting myself out there, literally, publishing a public podcast and interviewing amazing women from all over the world, I also, hear myself back and I put myself out there and then also hear other people's stories. And the more and more I do that, the more I wanted to actually share that with the world, because I learned so much about myself, about others, about what's really possible, especially when you allow the differences in people to just be different, right? If you just allow people to go and do things in their own way, so you feel kind of validated in a way that helps you do things in your own way, and then somebody else can be inspired by that. So it is a ripple effect that you get when you just let people be themselves. So in this episode, I'm talking to creative journey mentor Klaudia Wichmann, who is German like me, but she lives in Spain, unlike me. And yes, I'm just envious because, the weather in Germany at this time of the year, in the recording, is being done in January of 2024. So that's like one of the worst times to be in Germany weather-wise. It's just cold, it's dreary. The plants are kind of like being more alive, but like it's not pretty. It's just uncomfortable. But, hibernation is all good. And it's great to have these conversations to kind of kickstart that movement, get into the flow and all of that. And so we talked about specifically what it is like to be a human design manifestor type. If you don't know anything about human design, I encourage you to look a little bit into it, because this entire season of the podcast will be just conversations with other manifestor types, because I'm a manifestor. And looking back at it, I realized so many times I either had amazing breakthrough moments or met the most amazing people that resonated with me. At the same time, also those moments where I really triggered people just by existing, just by literally going into a room, introducing myself some people were just so violently against my being, and I did not know what the heck was going on, because for the longest time, and I'm still working on it, I've been the peopleless people pleaser there is. And so I'm like, what did I do to upset you? I can fix it. I can bend myself over backwards to fit into your whatever you want me to be. I don't do that anymore. But even then, people were not... It's not just that they dislike you, which is fair. Nobody has to... Like, there's no person on earth who is liked universally by everybody. That is cool. You don't have to like everybody. You don't have to be likable to everybody, because also, like, are you then a full-fledged person? If you're like this perfect innocent, like, people will be triggered by a lot of things. Just go on the internet. Like, there's hate for every single person. But at the same time, you, again, don't want to focus on all of those people who don't resonate with you, because they have people they resonate with. And so, like, focus on the good things. Focus on those people, right? And anyway, so a manifestor is one of the rare types according to this, what would you call it, kind of tool. It combines astrology and other kind of scientific approaches, let's call it that. And it's really, really great for self-reflection. It's really great if you want to work on yourself and you want to find out more about what your inclinations are for showing up in the world the most effective way with the least resistance. And it is a little bit woo-woo, but it's so specific. It's like a fingerprint. And every time I read more about it, because I'm doing it in stages, because it's very overwhelming, it is very detailed, every single time I feel so called out. It feels like it's reading me so individually. It's amazing. And it feels affirmative in a way that as a kid, I had these ways where people were confused by the way I would be very pushy on what I really wanted, or I would get really angry when people were telling me no, as kids too. But like some things I just knew I needed in a certain way. And I got a lot of backlash for it. Like even tiny things, like I just wanted to, like I was told to draw a vase with flowers. I did that. But also I'm very fast. And so I drew a whole room, like with a window and like the sun and the clouds behind it. And I got that person in the kindergarten, she had like a whole, she yelled at me and she told me I was awful for not following rules, blah, 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 the whole thing. Also, anybody with ADHD can probably relate to not understanding tasks in the way that they're supposedly giving, because you read a lot more stuff, overthink things, or you don't understand the subtext, whatever. I got into a lot of trouble just doing things, quite literally, and then just doing it wrong according to some other reasoning. And so I shrunk myself. It was like, I don't want to like cause this. Anyway, so like the more and more I learned about being a manifestor, I just realized like I'm just supposed to ruffle feathers, whether I like it or not. It will just happen. And I can actually use that for good, because when I am in my zone, I'm just completely transformed. I will like bulldoze my way through things. You cannot talk to me at that point. I will be in my zombie node, and I will inform people to then please use caution, don't approach, okay? Because that's when I will create stuff out of nothing in the shortest amount of time. But it also needs different rest cycles. It needs that liberty and that safety to be as creative and, supported as I need to be to do this, and have people that constantly give you advice. And, no matter how much they mean well, it can stifle that momentum, because it really is just like you just rest because you burned out from that big burst. And then you slowly gear up to go into sprint, like when you were a sprinter, you're like, position yourself, and then you raise your butt, whatever. And then you just wait until the shot, and then you just race. Like, this is how a manifestor works. We initiate stuff, we get stuff going. We're there to kickstart people into thinking and reflecting, into doing things by just doing it for ourselves. Like, it has this weird ripple effect, and it's very intense. And like when you meet a manifestor, you feel something in the energy. Anyway, it's a very short, but also I hope it made sense, kind of complicated explanation. And before I get into more of this, let's just go dive right into the podcast, okay? Let me introduce you to the wonderful Klaudia.
Hello. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. We've met before very briefly, but we already are feel like very close and fast friends. And I love how you're so bright and beamy, and it's just like we're just vibing, and that's the best reason to be on this podcast. And you are a manifestor like me, but you're a different authority, different type. So let's just dive right in. What are you and what do you do?
Yes, hi. Welcome to to my Klaudia show with you here. I'm so excited to do this. Yes, I am Klaudia. I'm a 5/1 emotional manifestor. So I've learned to navigate through this because I believe that the 5/1 line has been quite a challenge for me all of my life. And I've been working with that quite intensely over the last couple of months. And yeah, what do? I actually left the corporate world finally for good last year. I did the big leap of faith into something that is unknown, trusted, a creative urge that I had for such a long time. And I started my own project, which is called By Klaudia, because it incorporates everything that I love and do, and helps other women to step back into their creativity and, well, kind of like also reignite their femininity. But I don't mean it in this, like floral dress kind of sexy way. I mean it really like working with the energy. So it's a little bit more on the spiritual side, I say. And there's many things that will be coming with that. But I'm very excited to talk to you about anything manifestor or whatever we come up with.
I love that because it just deeply resonates with me, because that's also what I do. And it also came from me just taking a leap of faith and stumbling into the dark, and then things just falling into place. Like for me, like 10 years ago, I was at the lowest point. I was trying to get jobs and everybody was like, you are nothing. You can't do nothing. What do you even do? Having multiple degrees, speaking multiple languages, having lived abroad, nothing of that seemed to count when I was like trying to find a job in Germany. And at that point I had like the lowest abysmal self-confidence, so like none. And so I was soaking it up and was like, yeah, I guess I can't do anything. And I was working myself to the ground in unpaid, barely paid internships until I had like a full breakdown in HR, where I was like raging because they were like, putting all of these obstacles in my way and making it so unnaturally hard while I was working the role of like 6 people. After I left, I hired 2 people for my job and they couldn't cover half of what I did. I was like, see, I told you. And I didn't care. I moved to Australia on a whim, on an urge, because it was screaming at me every day. I was like crying myself to sleep when I was like, I need to travel. Like I'm joking, I'm saying it. And my system was screaming at me, just like, go travel. I was like, I can't. I need to be a responsible person, work for other people, like bury myself. And, that led to like a very deep, very, very intense clinical depression. And so I was just like, you know what? Nobody's going to save me. I'm going to save myself. I don't know how to. And I am also much in the moment. I'm splenic, but I also have gates, and I keep forgetting which ones they are. But they're basically in the now. That is my main thing. Like I cannot plan, and I've been saying that forever. I cannot plan. I don't know what I'm doing next week today, or like even anywhere. I just have a whim in the moment. I like a person right now, right here. And I know I need to go on a walk right now, right here. If I tell you like, yeah, I think I'm going to go on a walk, I'm going this way. It's a plan, but it might not happen at all. And the same with my creative stuff. And so like when I started my business by accident in that way, I just started freelancing. And all of that inspired me to inspire other women to go their own way and do their own thing. Because I've been through the fire and I tell people about it. It started with the travel. But now for me, it's like with your company, it's trying to help other women specifically to embrace themselves in their own way, whatever that means. Like if they're quirky, if they're like loud or quiet, if they want to become a different version of themselves, because we're always changing. And I like to do it with like visual storytelling, because it is so easy to listen to voices in our heads and society and all of the noise. But when you have like something concrete, like this lived experience where you have this fun photo shoot with me, for instance, and you're in the moment, you're not thinking, because I will distract you. But then Yeah, because like I'm just like, oh my God, imagine you're a queen, you're reigning over your empire, you're looking out over all the fields, everything where the light touches. But then you declare it it's sandwich day. So you go and face your crowd and tell everybody it's sandwich day. And what's your favorite sandwich? And they're like, what? People are like, what is going on? Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I do. I don't know what my brain's gonna do. I was super confused as well. I'm like, I'm just gonna go with this. But that way people are having fun because it's like, as we were with a kid and you're playing stuff, making things up. And then those photos actually look like you're confident and having fun and laughing instead of me telling you smile more. Like, you,
Yeah.
So I want to embody what we want to go and do. And like that, it feels so healing for myself because I do all of these self-portraits as well, because I have all of these creative urges in the moment and it needs to happen now. Like last night at 11 p.m. suddenly I was like, I need to do a photo shoot with these IKEA furniture things for dolls that I bought like 3 years ago. They had these sets where they had little doll sets of like their little sofas and chairs and whatnot. And I thought it's cute. I'm going to put it on my shelf. Never did. And I found that and I was like, I'm just going to make a photo shoot that is carnival themed with this furniture. And I just set it all up and I had confetti everywhere. And I posted it at like midnight because I just like, bam, bam, bam. I need to like shoot it, edit it, like get it out there. Now I want to like pitch it to companies and, and I can't do that. Planning it would have never happened. I have so many ideas I've planned and never saw the light of day because then I don't have the energy, then I don't have the urge. And the other day I discovered Threads, like I'm late to the game, but somebody was just like, what do you do with all of your ideas and blah? I'm just like, I need to write them down, but really I just need to do them in the moment when I feel I have enough energy to actually pull through. With the Manifestor, like you need to see how big of an urge it is, or if you're like in your rest cycle, you can only do like a little bit. But I realized that if I keep pushing it off to like, when I feel better, when I don't feel as tired, because I feel like tired always. It's like this weird thing where I'm wired and energetic, but I'm also tired. Need to find that sweet spot. And if I don't do it, then it will never happen. I don't have energy. And they were like people in the thread were like, what do you mean you don't have energy? And I was like, that's a generator question, isn't it?
Yeah. That is the question that has been haunting me for the last couple of, months, especially because I noticed like, okay, sometimes I don't even have, like any kind of like will to do anything.
No.
So I just end up on the sofa. Yeah, completely. I've been surrounded by many people over the last couple of weeks because I did another yoga teacher training. So it's like a very intense time where you spend a lot of time, all the time, basically, with other people. And that was quite an interesting experience for me because it was the first time that I was in such a group setting, such an intense group setting, knowing that I'm a manifestor and understanding my own energy. And I really had to honor my rest cycles, although there's not a lot of room for that because, of course, this is a course and you need to participate.
Yeah.
So, finding the rest was the biggest challenge because I also did it with my dog. I have a beautiful dog who has a lot of energy and he's not a small one. So he needed, big walks during the time that I was off. So basically, my rest cycle was doing the walks. So it was quite challenging.
It can also be rest. There's like different types of rest, like spiritual, mental, physical, social. What else? I think there's another one. I forgot. But for me, walks are like my way to reset sometimes. Like sometimes they're like a chore. And then I feel like, what am I doing to myself? This is more exhausting. I need to get in my like, what was it? Hot girl walk, like mental health walk, like sunshine walk, like whatever. I'm like, ugh. I'd rather go at night when it's so quiet and people can't bother me.
For me it was in the middle, to be honest, because sometimes I enjoyed them, but we also had a week where the weather was really, really, really bad and it was just completely muddy, very, very windy. And at the same time, after doing 2.5, 3 hours of yoga every day, you kind of don't really want to go for a walk. Like this is not really
more exercise.
Craving. Yeah. But I learned to deal with that and to kind of like stimulate myself into the rest in other ways. But I also noticed that, like being around other people I, for the first time, really like consciously experienced what was called the sacral hangover, I think. It's in that Informed book. And I really felt it. And I think, yes, that's the book. And I've been actually reading it during that time also. And when I stumbled upon this term, I'm like, yeah, that is exactly how I feel like, because no alcohol, no nothing, you know, I had my between 7 to 8 hours of sleep most of the night. I was really like trying to make that work, but I still felt like, what the heck is going on? Like, you know, my brain felt like this because, of course, a lot of information, a lot of people, a lot of everything. And then I realized, well, this is how a hangover feels like for us manifestors. And how do you get out of it when you cannot isolate yourself? That was kind of like the tricky part.
True. Did you also do meditation sessions where you could be more inward? Maybe that helps a little bit.
Well, we started the day, you know, every day at 7 a.m. we would do a 30-minute. Yeah, that's the drill. That's the yoga practice drill. So at 7 a.m. we would start with a 30-minute meditation. And I was so surprised because I've been doing meditation, and I've been meditating for the last couple of years, but I switched to guided meditations, and this was in silence, and it, you know, at very, very early hours in the day, which is not really my favorite. So I thought I would struggle a lot. It turned out that, you know, after the first couple of minutes, I really found my seat, and I really found like this quiet going within. It doesn't mean that there were no thoughts, but I learned to navigate through this, which was very surprising to me. But at the same time, meditating once again with other people in the room.
Yeah, so that's my question. So there were by yourself now?
No,
you see guys at the
yeah. I do that by myself. But there it was quite interesting to observe, because there were a couple of days where I just at breakfast would even mention like, so you guys were struggling with meditation today, weren't you? And then people say, yeah, it was so horrible or whatever. And you can really pick up the energy of other people without talking, right? So that's quite interesting. So it can help you to get into this meditative state, but it can also challenge you even more because you have to deal with your own stuff and whatever is coming up for others. And there's always something coming up.
I noticed that too, even before I knew I was a manifestor. I think I got into it like 2 years or so ago. I don't even know. But like before that, I was traveling pretty much nonstop, living out of a suitcase, working online. And I noticed that I would like to be by myself all the time. I was solo traveling around the world. It was great. But then I would crave human companionship. And so I would just sit in a coffee shop where I would like grab someone in a hostel and be like, you're my buddy for the day. And they're like, what? You know? And yeah, you know, or like they would just spot me and I like start a conversation. And usually I'm just like, oh, I hate small talk. I'm like, you want to go climb up the mountain with me? And they're like, what? Yeah. And then I would just like adopt someone for a day. And like we go on like crazy adventures because like some weird stuff always happens when I do travel. Like it's always an adventure. Like crazy things happen, cool things get discovered. It's fun. And I noticed that sometimes when I felt like I needed to be more productive, I need to do something, then I would just sit in like a co-working or with like specific friends that also have ADHD. So like it helps me to mirror people, like to have this body doubling is what it's called, where somebody needs to be in the room and doing something so you can do something and your brain doesn't get distracted because like suddenly there's this person you can like copy them in a way, you know, like even if they were on YouTube, I don't care. Like as long as they were sitting by the laptop looking busy, I felt like I needed to look busy and I actually got stuff done. But also like looking back at it now, it makes so much sense how like all of these generator friends who were like churning out all the things I was doing going into blogging. So I was writing so much content every day. I was producing so much every day. And then I would like crash and burn and I wouldn't be able to do anything. And then I would often ignore it. And then it would be even longer. The rest and stuff. Like I get into like rage where I would like then isolate because I didn't want to be an asshole to people. But it was specifically really bad in Japan because I'd been traveling at like 9 months at that point and pushing myself because I was surrounded by all of these hustle people. And I got stuff done. And then suddenly I was all alone and I didn't need to do any of that anymore. And it felt so hard. It was like pulling teeth. I didn't have energy to do anything. I didn't even want to go travel and like explore. And it was like, you've waited to go to Japan and now you just nothing. Like either you're hustling and I missed so many key things and I'm so peeved about it. Like I missed the Wisteria season while I was there because I felt like I needed to hustle harder and then I could earn that bullshit. And like I even had the universe like point me in that direction, like very, very harshly. There was this one hostel I stayed in, and this hostel owner, he came to me, was like, I'm gonna kick you out if you don't stop working. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you make me look bad. I'm like, how does that reflect on you? He's like, yeah, people might think you work here because you're just here all the time. You're like sitting here and like, I was like, I'm not. Like I told people, I informed everybody that I'm not part of this. I just work. Please don't disturb me. And he was like, no, you gotta like go somewhere else. And especially for a Japanese to seek that confrontation was like wild to me. It was like, damn, this must be serious.
Yeah.
Also, because I'm paying. You know, like I didn't disturb anybody. I didn't take anything. But okay. Yeah. So like it can be crazy when you like realize all of the things that how people kind of impacted you when you take up all of this energy. And I've always been very sensitive when people come into the room. Suddenly, like, I feel different, I react differently, I can read people pretty easily, and then they get really spooked. And often that comes with me, like, initiating people. Like, I see people, I'm like, oh, you really want to go to that school, but you're, like, afraid to, like, enroll. They're like, what? Like, how do you know? I'm like, well, I connected the dots, you know? And then people either freak out and don't want to talk to me, or maybe I initiate them some way. And then later on, they tell me like, oh, I saw you traveling by yourself. I saw you do this and that. And now I finally did the thing. And I was like, what did I do?
Yeah, that's the power of initiating is such a like, it's such a good tool and such a powerful tool, and at the same time scary, because for me, it turned out to be like so unpredictable. You know, people would come back to me and say, well, you know, I started doing this. For example, like I have many people who started doing pole dance because I really love that. And, you know, I'm just passionate about it. And, you know, I'm not the best pole dancer in the world. I just enjoy it. And so many people started actually, you know, even just going to like trial classes to the chance, like, but I never, you know, like it was never something that I told them, oh, you have to try. Usually it was for people that, you know, saw me doing it or somehow knew that I was, you know, connected with that. And it's quite interesting to also be influenced by others, because I had the same experience with, you know, other people, like especially when you're like in this online business bubble, it gets very difficult for us manifestors, because everybody is consistent. Everybody, you know, they get the satisfaction from doing this. They get the satisfaction from doing the, you know, 2 blog posts per week or whatever it is they're doing. And I can go along, but then comes the moment where I don't get their energy. And then suddenly, you know, I fall down. And this is what I really had to, navigate once again, you know, to learn how to deal with that. And right now I'm in this experiment of really just honoring those rest cycles and then following the creative urges, because many people, every time I would talk about certain things that I was going to do or I was thinking about doing, they would either not understand or they would give me an advice that was actually counterproductive, you know?
Let's talk about advice.
I
hate it. I hate it. Because usually, I mean, in society, it's usually like a knee-jerk reaction. You tell somebody a problem and they just want to help you and fix it, or like shut you up, whatever, or dismiss it. Like there's so many reasons, whatever, but they want to help you, and usually the way to do that is advice. And I've started, like even years ago, I started telling people I just want to soundboard because I need to talk things out. Sometimes it needs to be repetitive, like again and again. And I'm like, why am I having this conversation, having it in my head all the time, but it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm still trying to embrace the fact that I need to talk it out loud, like literally use my throat to do it. It feels awkward because I'm usually by myself. And I get stuff like this. And I get annoyed because I'm like, I can do it in my head, but it's different. If it's out there in real space,
it's out there
back, it feels and sounds different. And then actually when I have other people, I can also like see their reaction. They maybe have follow-up questions. I really like that. Just like talking out loud, having somebody hold space for you. And then maybe even guiding you, like almost like a therapy session, right? But most people are instantly like, oh, here's the solution, here's this, that.
Yeah.
So I learned to do myself, like I ask people, do you want my advice on this? Do you want tips? Do you like, what do you want from me right now? Because like I usually am there, like I can save you, I can help you. But I learned to rein that in because I don't want people doing it to me. So I won't do it to them. So like I'm just asking them for whatever they need right now. And most people have never thought of that. They're like, let me think about it. Like I never, you know, they're so unused to having options in that way because usually you expect an answer or advice, but then usually it doesn't really sit well with anybody really. I feel like with any type, it's just like unsolicited advice can be just so belittling, or it just, you know, because everybody has different needs, and
it's not so only belittling. It's just, you know, they don't have the information. Exactly. And sometimes we cannot, that's at least for me, I don't know if it's, you know, similar to you or to whoever is listening right now, but I feel like often I have information I cannot put into words.
Yes.
So I know something and I see it, but still I don't see it. It's not that, you know, I see a house with a window and that's not what I'm seeing, but yet I'm seeing. And it's kind of the problem with the advice, especially what I was struggling with, that I often got advice from generators or manifesting generation. They're very pushy and they don't mean, you know, anything bad. And yet it affects me in a way that just, you know, like this feeling of not being good enough and not you know, being consistent enough and all the stuff that actually is just part of their energy. And so what I did, and especially last year, I was paying attention to really focus on that. So if I need advice or guidance in my life, and that, you know, can be in form of a mentorship or whatever it is, I always pay attention that it's not coming from a generator, just because it really hurt me in the past. And it hurt my energy and it got me off the path that I was on. So I'm really working, you know, I had one friend who was a reflector, which was quite interesting. That was like for my spiritual growth, very intense. But then I've been working with projectors and manifestors, and that has really changed the whole game, because now the advice that I'm getting is something that is being like ping ponged to me in a way that I can again initiate more information from that. Let's put it into this term, right? And actually on the yoga teacher training, I sparked the conversation about human design, and I wanted to know other people's design, of course, right? Because that's always interesting. And especially when we are, you know, surrounded by so many people, like I knew that probably, you know, chances are pretty high that most of them will be generators. But what happened is that one evening, when I was having this conversation about human design, I ended up sitting at a table with 3 other manifestors. And that was like mind-blowing, because this is, again, something that I really initiated last year. I said, you know what, I am so done with just being surrounded by people who can be consistent, who are, you know, doing the things as the system that we've been working with, you know, is made of. And suddenly I'm at this table with 3 other manifestors, and I noticed certain, you know, things, certain qualities in the conversation that I was often missing. And, you know, this kind of conversation where you're like the smartest one in the room, not from like a bitchy perspective, but just like, you know, but I just know this, you're not giving me new information. I want to grow, whatever it is, right? And with these people, it was magical, because and not only I, but we all could discuss things from perspectives that were just like, wow, this is not 1 step ahead, like this is 10 steps ahead. And now we have to find out, you know, like how to actually do it. Like, how do we follow through so that we can, you know, complete a certain task, not by completing it, but putting it out into the world. And it was so beautiful. It was so magical to be, you know, in this manifestor energy and like, oh. So now I understand the difference, and it really does make a difference. And it doesn't mean that, you know, like advice from generators or manifesting generators is not great, because it is great, but for certain energy types.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, you know?
I agree. Yeah, you need to be really mindful. Like for me, because I've always been like, my family, they're all like sacral types, I think, except for my dad. So they're always like, sleep on it, emotional, sleep on it, and like pros and cons, and do a little thing every day. And I could never do it. And then also with my ADHD, I'm just like losing, like I'm diving deep as much as I can, and then I lose interest, and it's like gone, and it's just gone. And I can't, like, you can't make me do this thing. And I tried it so hard. And then there's the next shiny thing, and I do this thing. I'm like, I always admired people. I remember like when I was doing the linear path, people put me on like, you get good grades in school, and you get good grades in university, and then you go apply for a job, and like all of that. I was on of that, and then obviously people were like, nobody wanted to hire me, and I was like, what did I do? Like I did everything against my wishes, what was reasonable, and I got nowhere at all. Like it was wild to me, and I was just victim mindset, whatever. But I could never, regardless of that, I always found ways to just kind of sneak in almost what I felt really good for me. And that was just like in spurts. I would just learn in spurts, like last minute to become PhD, but then I would get so much more done than all of my classmates. Like any kind of project where I could get creative, like in the last minute, I would like completely erase everything. And then I come up with like these wild artistic posters, and like I would make PowerPoint slides, but I would like draw them as like we had a play on Oscar Wilde at one point, like because I chose Importance of Being Earnest, one of my favorites. Like in school nobody had heard of it. They're like, oh my gosh, everybody chose. I don't know what they chose, but I went and did like storyboards, but like overlay, so like I can move the figures as if it's like a puppet theater, and I would like be like, this is Ernest and this is Brandon, I was just like acting it out, and then I give away interpretation. People were like, what is going on? I was like entertaining, I was drawing things, I was projecting things, and color and light, and then sometimes sculptures, because I just felt I wanted to, and that is great. Like it gave me good grades, it was fun for me, and it gave different perspectives. So often I even had my teachers and professors say, I never thought of that. I was like, what do you mean? Never thought of that? It's like the first most obvious thing for me. And then their regular answers they expected I didn't come up with, because I already dismissed them as too basic. So like, I mean, that sounds that sounds very arrogant, but like, I already thought that's the baseline. Like I need to like think further, whatever. So always felt like weird, always felt off. And then I held myself back more because people were like, I don't know how to deal with this. I do not know how to take it. A lot of people were threatened, because also I didn't inform them. I just went ahead because I didn't want somebody to mess with it. Because every time I felt like I would tell people and share my ideas, they would come in with their logic or with their like step by step and like take it easy, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I can't take it easy because then I have no steam. And so I would keep it all close to my chest, and then I would ruffle feathers because they're like, I didn't see you coming. You just literally raced through the corridors. Like, what's going on? Like, tell me, keep me updated. Like, I have no time. Can't slow down for you. And so I've recently tried to be more informative, but I still don't quite, it doesn't feel natural at all. I don't even, like, I feel like I'm over informing, always like, oh, should I stop myself here? Like, as I'm talking, because like the trauma and the conditions, it's so deep where I'm like, oh, do you need to know this thing? Like, also be careful what dreams you share with whom, because they might, even if they sound supportive, you can feel their energy where they're like, really, absolutely, I don't think this is gonna work. So like, you have to be careful who you share things with, and then also the energy, because sometimes when I do share with like generator types now, I'm already like, you can't tell me anything about this. This is already set for me. And I'm just, it's at this point where it is an information. It is not just me trying to sort my thoughts and feeling vulnerable, but I find that still very difficult, because like, where do you inform to not be derailed in that way? Because we're so susceptible, but also how do you inform to get the support for people who are to giving you that, but you have to put yourself out there to find them. So like, this is a weird that I haven't figured that one out, you know?
Yeah. It definitely is a tricky part because just as you said, especially, about the dreams or visions or just, like the nice things that you want for yourself. And it can be something as stupid as, going to a fancy restaurant, one Friday night because you've been dreaming about going there. And then somebody, may sound supportive, but then they kind of like, mess it up for you in an energetic way. I've had that quite a lot. For me, the experience has been intense once again, because, I moved to Spain 3 years ago. 3.5 years ago. And for many people, that is a trigger, to be honest, because I moved by myself. I didn't have a job here. I didn't have the Spanish boyfriend who would lure me into the country. Like, I just did it because I'm emotional. So I wrote I had to write my emotional wave. And then I was clear that, I was in this neutral kind of nice spot and like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And so I did it, and it's been over 3 years, and I have this, amazing apartment that I really love. It's a bit small, but it has an amazing view. I'm looking at the sea, and I'm, as a Pisces, again, I connect with water so much, and it makes me so happy. And I noticed that I've had people who were actually, jealous of that without me. Like I wasn't trying to prove a point. Like I just followed my intuition here, and it has led me there, but it also led me to a lot of darkness. Like I've been experiencing a lot of loneliness, but at the same time, I've learned a lot about unconditional love there. So like my spectrum before that was a little bit, smaller. And with that leap of faith, again, like I jumped into experiencing like real darkness and also real light, and it's extreme, and both places, when you're in them, like you kind of want to be in them, like you want to be at peace, right? You don't want the overwhelm, but of course people forget that the loneliness part, or just not loneliness, but like a little bit of, what am I doing here? Like I left everything behind that I know, those people who know me and all that stuff. Like I left behind my security on many levels, actually. And people still will wish me bad things, kind of, and not say that, but I made a full circle, and, we gathered information. We have those downloads, and we challenged the information. And it turned out that I had to lose, for example, one friend after 5 years because I found out through many circumstances how life aligned kind of for us, that she was kind of, using me because she liked to come to Spain. And, I am a great tour guide, to be honest, because I love where I live and I love to show the places, Yeah, exactly. Like everybody's welcome because I love sharing what I am discovering there. And it's a mix of touristy stuff, but also like the local stuff. And I really like it. I really like to emerge, in this cultural part. But then with this friend, it was like, okay, so it was good enough as long as I was kind of like the easy one to get along with. And then one time she had to make a little compromise, which in the end looked like I wouldn't drive her 2 hours somewhere, but she would have to take a bus of 4 hours. And she really got a lot of rage out of me. Like she was raging, and she was like, this is, you cannot change plans like that. And like as a 5-1, we were 2 5-1s projecting quite a lot.
Is she manifested too?
Manifesting generator. And but she has a lot of stuck anger in her. Like I knew that, but it was quite sad, to be honest, because I thought, this is a real friendship. It turned out not to be. It turned out to be a friendship as long as, the manifestor is providing peace for everybody else. And that was an experience that, that cost me also money, but also energetically, it cost me quite a lot. And, I've experienced the 5-1 line in a very interesting way here. And we'll see, what lessons will come from that. But this is something that I really learned to, and this is just a recent thing, but I really learned to, again, who am I sharing my happiness and my sadness with? Because some people like to see your sadness grow.
Yes, I had a friend like that too, and so sad. Like I had a lot of these friendships were like so close, so insanely tight, and then overnight they just exploded or imploded, and they
Mhm.
just like ghosted in me, and I was like, "What happened? How can people flip so easily?"
Mhm.
And I wanted to talk it out, and they just like ghosted. I'm like, whatever. But there was this one friendship where I met this woman at like a conference. We instantly were like best buds. We were like, you
Mhm.
know, attached at the hip, and we would go different countries. And I initiated her to go to a country I've been before, which I was like, I'm sure you'll love it. Like I have this hunch you would love it, and she did. And I gave her all of the tips because I've lived there. I've done a lot of things like, and we were in for half a year. We were almost every day talking on the phone because she had all of this boy drama, and like I don't
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
because I don't care about like dating all of that, but like that was her thing. So I was like patiently listening.
Mhm.
Uh all of the mistakes she repeated again and again. I was like, girl, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my I feel like my spleen told me from the beginning, was like, that's a great friend for now. Be
Yeah.
careful. It was always like, be careful what you share. And I was like,
Mhm.
I know. Like, because I had a lot of friends also backstab me and use sensitive information against me to
Yeah.
vulnerably attack my
Yes.
sense of self, which is like, how
Yeah.
dare you? You
Yeah.
know, I've had that before. So I was like trying to be cautious, but also that's not a way to live. And then as soon as I was like getting
You open
emotional,
your heart at
she
some
would
point.
drag it out of me. She would be
Yeah.
like getting it, and then once I get
Mhm.
going, I will just unload and overshare. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, I'm like, damn, I said too much. Like after the call,
Yeah.
I was like, every time I was like, I said too much. Like that was like a pattern, and I noticed
Wow.
it, and I didn't listen to myself though. And then at one point, I moved to England just because they hired me as a photographer at the school. So it was like every day it was a complete full day. It was exhausting. All of these kids around me, all of this energy. And I was fully like employed for this time being for the summer. And she would still
Mhm.
come up to me and like want attention. I was like, girl, I can. And then she got it into her head because I gave her a lot of tips about her Instagram. That she was like, one day she decided like she should just take it over. Haha. I was like, no.
Mhm.
And she's like, no, you really should. I'm like, no. And then she left me the most explosive voice messages of calling me the worst person because I'm the worst friend. Everything's transactional. I can't just take out 1 minute per day to run her Instagram account. I was like, what is this going? Like, I'm not your manager. Like, what are you like? How do you even expect anything? Like, she wouldn't stop posting anything without asking me first. I'm like, girl, you got to stop setting the boundary here. I have so much to do.
So weird.
This is weird. And then she was so angry. Like she verbally abused me and she like screamed into the phone. Like it was just like one message after the other. She just yelled abuse at
Wow.
me. And I was like, what? And then like
Great.
I stopped listening to that. Like I was just sitting in the common room like crying. I was like, how
Mm.
can you be such a terrible friend to me? And I even had like my colleagues come up and like, what's going on? I'm like, do you think this is normal? Like, is she gaslighting
Mhm.
me? They're like, yeah, like cut her off. And
Wow.
yeah, I was like, what is going on? And so I was like, that is crazy. I really should have listened to myself first. Where yeah, obviously we were kind of using each other as like um an emotional support person listening to whatever rant we had, but it only goes so far until it's really, really toxic. But like that rage, I don't know if she was also a manifestor and thought I was in her way. I don't know. I don't know her exact birth time.
Mm.
I tried checking, but Facebook removed all of the birth dates for some reason, so I can't even
Cool.
look at it. Yeah, recently I tried to like look up a couple of friends. I was like looking at their design, but everything is now hidden for some reason. I'm
Mm.
like, I should have wrote it down. So now I have to like go through like a search for like happy birthday wishes, but then there's not a year. So I was like, oh man, I have to ask people now. And it's
I
also
keep
weird. Like,
asking.
how do you ask people for human design when I don't want to be weird, but I don't want to be sneaky, but also I don't know how to get it started. And most people don't even know their birth time. Like I went home this weekend and I ruffled through all of the birth certificates of my family, and there's no time. The people don't write it down at all, and they don't know.
Wow.
So how do you even, because sometimes there's like 3 possible types per day. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that?
For me, it was quite different because I stumble upon many people who actually heard something about human design, and often they
Nice.
kind of either know or they know of human design, but it's very like most people really want to find out, and they give me their time. But I don't really like, I don't care what my friends are, because the ones, that know their human design, like this is a part of our regular conversation anyway.
Nice.
But this has shifted when I moved to Spain, because my friends from back home kind of also, they never were really open to any like kind of astrology, spiritual stuff.
Yeah, that's what I mean, those people.
Yeah. And so I don't even, I'm not even interested in knowing their human design. Sometimes if it comes up, then yes, we do. It is enough if I know, like some of my best friends, they are Leo, and that's all I need to know. And, I work with that information and just leave with everything that I know about the relationship and what I value about them. But then, yeah, I have some people where we really like even dig into our designs, and it's interesting because then you kind of always like learn a little bit more and a little bit more. So I really love that. And yeah, as I said before in the yoga teacher training, I just mentioned it, and the interest was there, and so the conversation was there. But I had similar situations where it was the opposite, where people would like, yeah, no, let's talk about something completely else, and then the topic is done. Then I know, okay, this is not the stage for it.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we also initiate, so like,
yeah,
either
exactly.
way. Because like I had a party a while ago. What was it? I don't know. New Year's party. And I just mentioned human design, and then everybody was looking up like, look up mine. I was like, okay. Like
yeah.
Just looking up like, you're this, you're that, and then like, what? Tell me more.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel like this is the easiest way. Even, like with astrology, same thing, because sometimes I really like to talk about astrological placements, and, some people really know, like they will shoot out their rising and moon at you, like directly, like, here, I'm this and that. And others like, there's more, so it's quite interesting. And so I feel like this is also, attracting the people that I want in my life.
Yes.
Because human design is a tool that I'm actively using, and I am also using it for my project, because it is not only guiding me, but it helps me to help other people achieving whatever they want to achieve once we have certain information about them. And of course, everybody wants a better life. So, and if you don't want to share that with me, that's also fine, because there's like so many other tools that we can use so that we can get you wherever you need to. So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, I know.
True. But like you said, it is not just because I'm nosy, but it's also because I can help you in your own way. Because I really believe, especially after all I've been through, just like, you are you. I do not know you as much as you know yourself. And even we ourselves don't really know us fully. Like, there's always something new to discover, or something that we buried. It's just fascinating. I just come with curiosity, so I can help you better. Because like, for instance, when clients come to me and I like want this artistic project, photo, video, whatever, and then they're like, I trust your artistic judgment, blah, blah, blah. We're just like, what does that mean? I need more goalposts. I need your marketing goal. Like, I need something firm. I need to like talk to you face to face, so I can feel your vibe. I can feel your person, so I can visually translate that. Because my brain will always show me like, Kopfkino, like a cinema in my head, where if I talk to somebody, I will like already see a movie playing of like how they feel to me, how it could look on social media, all of that. And that if they already know their audience, but also if they know what they want to become, because if some can be used as a transformational thing, then, it's not about what I feel and then put it on you. It's a co-creation. It's something that we do together, so you know what you want to achieve, and I can help you realize it, but I cannot be over here reading your mind. That is not how this works. I can only do so far, and also I can project a lot of stuff onto you. And most people know what they want. They're just not conscious of it, or they're afraid of it. Like for me, I notice every time I already have a feeling about it. People are always like, why are you resisting? Like, why did you ask me for advice? Or why did you usually ask for, I didn't even ask for advice, but usually you're like, why did you even ask me if you don't like to hear my answer? Because usually it's for me to reject all of the whatever things saying to get to the point where I feel it's more in the realm of where I accept it. Usually I just reject everything. I'm like, no. Where do I need to seek? I always try to find which path do I need to go? Because everything sounds horrible. It's very logical for sure, but it's almost like there's this wall coming up where I'm like physically tensing, and people are like, what is going on with you? Like, is this reasonable advice? I'm like, yeah, but I'm screaming inside.
Yeah.
Right? And so for me, it's really, really important to make people comfortable and also safe in where they can explore whatever they feel comfortable with. And that is really difficult for myself, for everybody, this vulnerable state of curiosity and surrender. And so, it's just another tool to help you on your way to be more yourself in this current phase of your life.
Yeah, I've heard this one, I don't know if it was a quote or just a statement or whatever, but often, like we have ideas what to do for the other person, right? Or like how this other person could make the best out of a certain situation, or what they should do in a certain situation. And so the statement was saying that, this is partially true, but it is what you would do in their position, and they might not have the tools that you have. So this is something that really helped me to understand, this part of creating an illusion for somebody else, or even me creating the illusion of this other person. Like, like if I hear somebody sing very well, then I can, see a whole whatever, even if it's just a hobby, but like I can see their whole personality development through this, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, you see the light up points.
And for some people it might be the career, in singing, but for some it may be neither, and it's just something that kind of maybe is like left from a past life. I don't know, but it's just like they will not use that part. And then I have to accept it and kind of like move on, even though I sometimes want to be like, but this is so good. And, if I had this, and this is again, like if I had this, then I would do something. So it is quite interesting. It is quite interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more I rest and the more I really acknowledge this whole, taking 5 steps back from life, the more I can be relaxed about those situations or those illusions, because then I'm just like, in peace with myself again, and I kind of build up the energy for myself and don't need to waste it on other people. And this is, something that I really want to experiment even more in this year, because I have not been resting last year almost at all. And I'm noticing, the aftermath of that right now. So it's quite interesting because I have this pack of creative urges and they're like boiling up in me, but they're still not ready to. Yeah, not quite yet. And I'm really trying to force myself into this rest cycle right now, which is quite interesting because it's not me being on the sofa, but I actually booked like a week in Granada here in Spain. And I'm just, like visiting touristy things. And yesterday I was 4 hours in the Alhambra, the big castle, right, in Granada. And I was just, staring at all this like Islamic design and architecture and like, wow, this is amazing. I don't know what's happening with me, but I felt really exhausted after that, but at the same time really like fulfilled. So I'm like, okay, let's continue this. And after that, I'm not sure, if the creative urges will be ready or if I need to rest more. But I'm really slowing down. Like doing this interview is already like I was ready for it. But more than that, no, thank you. Yeah, it's quite interesting because I never was that clear about it. I was always, pushing more and more because, of course, you have to be, strict. But you don't. As a manifestor, you don't. You have to understand how you work, because also another manifestor might need different rest cycles in different moments of their life.
Yeah, I recently joined a 60 manifestor Zoom call. We're talking about the book Informed, right? And so that was wild. And that was also one of the topics where you have to realize, we were talking about all kinds of weird questions, so to share our inspiration and experiences, because everybody is very different. And that was like the main consensus. Like, sure, you can write a book about manifestors, you can listen to podcasts, and you can talk about it, but it's all very much a fingerprint of sorts. Like, even if you are a design and if you know what you want, then you still need to be very specific with yourself and can't just like label. Like, it shouldn't be that thing where you just put people in boxes again and label them and like be like, oh, my projectors are like that, oh, manifest. Like, no, no, just really be open to help them understand themselves better, help you be more graceful towards yourself and other people. But also with the rest cycle specifically, they mentioned that, like, one of them was like, I don't really do rest cycles. Like, I never rest, but I still have the rest cycles. It's just a different kind of level of using my energy in a more contained way. But I never stop moving. I'm always on the go. I'm always doing things, but it feels good. Like, that one person was like, I'm never tired. I just honor, like, when I just stop hustling, but it keeps them in the flow because it's just so much fun what they're doing. Like, everything needs to come from joy. And it's like, work is joy. And that's how I felt when I was traveling. And that's how I haven't felt since I stopped traveling. That, for me, it really is, because I also have the environment marketplaces. So, like, I need the hustle and bustle, but I also need to be like the observer of it, where I can interject when I want to, but I also can detach myself. But I need to be in the midst of things, which is travel, right? Working, all of that, where I can also tap. It's so cool. But I can also tap into the different centers where I was like, today I need to be more focused, today I need to hustle. Like, because you have those people in those big places, there should be somebody with any of that, so you can complement yourself, but also needing to be more self-aware, where you can stop to not get that hangover, right? But also with me, my rest cycles, because she said that she doesn't really rest, like deep rest or whatever. Because, like, for the past 3 years, I've been trying to do this, reset of sorts, where I wanted to come out of this hustle culture because I was so deep in it. And I still often catch myself needing to be productive to feel valuable. I can't even, like, meditation has become like a chore, like a thing I have to, like, everything is like optimized, and I find it so hard to let that go and to just like explore the moment. Because when I do that, suddenly like hours go by me staring at my plant or at the wall, like, that's it.
I hate that.
About it. So, like, this past 3 years, I've been like really slowed down, like taking these walks and meditating and like slowing down, like just working on my desk, and nothing works. I can't go into the flow. And then I reflect on like me traveling, which was completely hectic, but it evolves into like a better balance at the end. But it really was just like, I woke up, I was like, what do I want to do today? Like, I always talk to myself as like a kid, like, what do you want to do today? Like, what do you feel like is fun? And then I just would do that. I'm like, if I want to go to the beach, I do that. If I want to go to a museum, I do that. People were like, you should go to this place. And I would be like, do I want to go? Or yes or no? Because a lot of people were like, you have to see the top 10, blah. And I was like, I have to do nothing. Sometimes.
Yeah, don't tell me what to do, even if it's sightseeing.
Exactly. Especially when you're like a full-time traveler.
Yeah.
It's not as exciting as you think. Because I've been overexposed to a lot of things. So I was templed out, I was beached out, whatever. Yeah. And if I stayed for a week in my bed, that's cool. I was much more compassionate with myself at that point. But also I was like so energized. I was like hustling in a fun way. I was like, I was working. Then I was like, I have no more joy in this. So I would like climb a mountain, and on the mountain I would like draw something or write a blog post, whatever. Like, I would like travel with my laptop everywhere. I would sit on mountaintops. I was like, there's Wi-Fi here, blah, blah, blah. Like a crazy person. I goes on the mountain to find Wi-Fi. What? And then I would just go down. I would like randomly take a side alley, end up in a coffee shop, or end up at a festival. And then I would like go home, maybe sleep, maybe work. I don't know. So every day was so different, but it was just really in the flow. It was like non-stop movement, non-stop. And every time I felt I was slowing down too much, I would literally get up and go. I would just walk and see what happens. I have no plan. I always have like a maps app on my phone to like get me back to where I need to go, because I can get lost. But it always worked out. And since I've slowed down so much, where I'm just in my room, away from everybody else, so I can really rest in my energy, because I also have like a root center. So like I do need energy, I do need the movement, but I haven't done that much. And just this rest is so tiring to me. It doesn't give me energy. It takes me so much time to motivate myself to sit at the desk or even go out for a walk. Like everything feels so much harder, even though technically it's like resting and being much more chilled out. It doesn't work for me like that. And so now I'm at this point where like I need to catapult myself back on the road. But because I've been burying myself so much, like the universe always, like every time I want to do something, I get another bill coming in. So I was like, oh, I can't afford this trip. And so I'm like, what is this? I thought you, like, universe, like, you wanted me to go travel. Like, why do you put this all in my way? Like, what have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done to myself?
It is like, those moments where you're like, okay, so refocus or step back or go ahead, whatever. Like sometimes they are, externally motivated. It may be by bills or like some other opportunities that just simply come up. And, noticing how to navigate through that. Like it is quite challenging, I believe. But I also see that it gets easier with time. And right now I'm still, in this exploration mode where I'm like, okay, where is this even going? Like, it's funny because I have no idea where I'm going. At the same time, it's very clear, but without the words, as we said, you just know.
And at the same time,
no. The only thing that is defined for me is my, throat, obviously, my ajna and my solar plexus. So I'm quite open. I'm quite open to many, many things. And like I've never had more trust in life than in this very present moment. And there's so many like unknowns and I'm just going with it. And it turns out to be very, easy. So we'll see how it will continue. That became very clear during the yoga teacher training because I had like those moments of clarity, even though like, again, I know that I will not be teaching yoga on a weekly basis because I don't want to have the energy for that because that would tie me down to one place. Whereas I love so many concepts that yoga has, like on a philosophical path, but also like just, the practical movements. So I have already developed some workshops that I'll be giving and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, so I know I'm focusing on this, I'm focusing on that. And there's, other projects that are still like in this creative urge incubator. They're still not ready to get out. But it's like
it's boiling, like you can't.
It's boiling so much. And this is, it's kind of like getting me really like, I like those horses, the racing horses that are already like, moving their legs, but they're not quite ready
like
to run
at the
yet.
sprint where you're like ready, but you can't quite yet. You're not allowed to yet.
I was at the vet today with my dog and there were like two amazing, beautiful cats there and they were like running around freely at the vet. I'm like, you people are stupid. But here I am with my pit bull who really loves cats, right? To hunt them. He's not, he's never really had a lot of cat contact, but he was sitting there and of course, he listens to me because we did the education part, but he was sitting there and his whole body was shivering from the excitement, of just catching the cats. I'm like, oh, that's kind of how I feel like, because he had to stop himself. But of course, if the leash and me were not there, oh my God, that would be a lot of running and screaming. So, this is what is happening within us as manifestors also. Like, this is how I see it when we are about to, birth this creative urge. And it can be as stupid as just going to a cafe and reading a book there. Like, this is also part of those creative urges for me. Yeah. Like it doesn't always, because people tend to do this whole, like everything's business and career and that kind of thing. It's not, sometimes it is the vacation. Sometimes it is the party that you want to throw for people, or just you, going to a restaurant, either with friends or by yourself, and just like following this kind of like, oh, maybe I'll, discover a new recipe that I want to integrate into my daily life. And it's, for me, like seeing those little puzzles, that is something that's very beautiful about this manifestor energy. Just, oh, okay. And then from here we go to the next one, the next one, the next one. And that's a cycle.
And I also love learning to embrace that it is okay for it to be very personal. Like, almost feels selfish, especially, I grew up as a people pleaser, boundaries not allowed, all of that. So everything feels selfish. And that's why I held myself back until I exploded. And then I went selfishly to the other end of the world, like, left everybody behind. How dare I? I still have people tell me that. I was like, it literally saved my life. What do you mean? But that's part of being manifested. It feels so deeply personal. It feels very individual, but it will have the bigger impact, and you don't know. And it's also not for us to like make that impact onto other people. Like, sometimes we want to initiate, but like it's not our call, not our place. No. We can't control what other people do with it. But like this ripple effect, we don't know. Like with me, or with you saying you inspire people, like randomly, you didn't make that urge happen so you could inspire people. It wasn't calculated like that. It just had this effect. And maybe sometimes we have an idea like this could have this impact. Like I can see the vision, but again, it takes me back into my head. It takes me out of the thing as soon as I try to like monetize it or like strategize it and like integrate it into this big business plan. It's just a fluke all the time. I'm just like, oh my gosh, now it doesn't feel good. Now it doesn't resonate with people. I should have just done the thing. However, I felt like, and it's what I find the hardest is complete detachment of like, what will other people think? How will it resonate? Because so many things of mine tanked. But then at the same time, I still felt they were necessary for me to progress, for me to just try it out and see that I can do hard things. And I did the thing. And then maybe led to other ideas and maybe led to people seeing it and they give me connections. Like you do not know. And so it's this weird uncertainty of this weird illogical urge. It's like this weird random, almost intrusive thought that works. It is like, like a green flag from the universe. And you're like, that sounds like a really strange thing for me to do. And the universe is like, oh, there you go, do it. You're like, I have to trust this now, jump the cliff. Ew. And so this is hard to reason with and explain. And for me, with my spleen especially, it is just like this one ping where I'm like, do this thing. And I'm like, wait, what? Like sometimes I don't pay attention too much and then I can't connect with it because the spleen doesn't like any follow-up questions. It doesn't care if you listened or not. It will just put in like obstacle after obstacle until like you realize you heard it very clear. You just did it. Or what people also try to, the pros and cons, to sleep on it, the emotional advice. For me, it's usually like, I already know the answer, but I'm just afraid. And so I will like pretend to not hear it or ask people for advice, and they will just bury it. And then people go like, why? You already know. And like so many times, I can't even tell you. So many times people are like, you already know the answer. Why do you keep asking? Why do you need to justify it? Because you already know. I feel like you've already decided, and I'm just too afraid to actually commit or to listen to. But people are like, what are you? Like, you already know, don't you? It's like, no, I don't. I swear. And they're like, I get a feeling you really do. It just scares you so much. Yeah, that's for me. It's usually that thing where like, I know. I've known from the start of my spleen. It's like, this is the answer. And then it's just like, that can't be it. And then I just rebel because I'm like Manifestor against myself. I'm like, I don't tell myself what to do either.
Nice.
Like,
that is great.
And so I'm in my own way a lot. But so many times, like growing up as a kid in school, like I have examples of that all the time where I was just like, I knew it. I just didn't do it based on all of the conditioning that I've got because,
it's so crazy.
Wild.
It's just such a roadblock on so many things. Yeah. For me, as an emotional manifestor, I definitely sometimes do those pro and con lists.
How is that like? Tell me.
That is amazing because, the moment I write down, it kind of like becomes more real. And then I know the thing that is blocking me. Most of the time, it's about money. And, like, for example, I did my master. So I had one semester that I needed to do abroad, and I really wanted to go to New Zealand, but it was really expensive. It was like 9 or 10K, just the tuition fee. which is a lot of money for one semester, right? Especially if you're from Germany and you're paying 300 euros, I think, per year or whatever. And
and that's just admin, tuition.
Yeah. So that was kind of like a roadblock, because of course we had like some other like partner universities, and that would have been so much cheaper, even sometimes for free. And I really wanted to also go like to South America, Latin America. That was kind of calling me back, zero Spanish skills. So I thought, like doing this whole like international business thing and not knowing any Spanish, not sure if that is really what I want. So that was like this back and forth, although like I want to explore those countries. Like there's like this huge desire to be there. That's another thing. But, during that time, a couple of years ago, without the Spanish, like, yeah, that will not be the experience that I want to have. And then one day I just said, screw that. Yeah, I can't keep, going back and forth and, looking at the cheap options just because they're accessible. So one day one evening, I was just sitting at the table. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write down all the pros and cons of every country or like every university that I had in mind. And I think there were like 3 or 4. And of course, include New Zealand, just so that I have an overview, because of course, the mind is rushing and you have all those ideas and all those, pieces of information. But like for me, at least, if I don't see them, I don't have them really. Mm-hmm. So the moment I wrote it down, it was like, the list for, I think I had Chile and Peru on Latin America's side. And then I had New Zealand and 1 or 2 other European countries. And then I wrote it down, and, there were so many pros for the other ones. The one in Europe, not really, but, I had to make sure that I included everything. And then I was staring at it. And then I started walking around, like the body started talking to me. I didn't know what was happening. And then I just grabbed my pen, like literally I just took it. And then I crossed out the tuition fee and everything. And it was like, yeah, I'm going to New Zealand. Like that was that clear in that moment. And it was my whole emotional wave. Yeah, I just felt it because, like it was like this all the time. I even had like really a lot of issues with my family because they were saying, you already were in New Zealand. It's so far away. It's so expensive. Why do you need to go there? Yeah, all that good stuff, right? And so I was a little bit lost, especially when you like 20-something-year-old, you like, yeah, I know, like they need well and blah, blah, blah. And there I was with my pros and cons list. And suddenly I knew what I had to eliminate. And, fast forward a couple of months later, after me making this decision and saying like, screw you, everybody, I'm doing this. And if I can't, then I still can, make some other arrangements. But I'm focusing on this now. And I made it possible to actually reduce those costs of the tuition fee with some other, like there's programs, there's so many things. I had another job that I started, and suddenly, this huge sum for me was possible. Mm-hmm. And I had the best semester. It was amazing. I have learned so much about myself. So like everything just aligned, but just because I aligned with my decision-making process. And it really felt like, but you know what? I love New Zealand and I want to feel comfortable when I'm studying. So, like this all came true. And since then I started making, I do not make them too often, to be honest, because I've learned to not use, the visual part anymore. But sometimes if I'm really going back and forth between a decision and another, it just helps me to clarify what needs to go. And that is so powerful because I don't have the splenic, like in the moment decision making. If I make decisions like that, usually they do that. Like I can be lucky, but that's just pure luck. Whereas like the emotional neutrality that I have to achieve is so nice because then again, I'm at peace with my decision.
And then feel peaceful when you reach that neutral state. Because when I overthink, when I do the emotional up and down, it's very tumultuous. It's like wavy, but I never feel peace. I just feel anxiety. It's like building into a maelstrom. That's how I've experienced the emotion. I haven't open, obviously.
So
I find that interesting.
The opposite. Yeah, it's completely the opposite for us. And this is something, because I've been listening to the advice, like listen to your gut, right? Or listen to your heart. Well, somebody who has an open heart center will definitely not, have the best decisions from the heart.
Yeah, but also that means nothing. That's just like weird, empty phrases. And like so much of our conditioning, like all of the Disney movies always say like, oh, it's like, follow your heart, be yourself.
Yeah.
When do you ever get rewarded for that in society? People do not like you to ruffle the feathers. They want you to be in a neat little box. So like all of these movies are just lying to us. Like they're not actually, you really need that. But it's not safe enough to do this as a
you have to be very clear about your own soul alignment. Well, I call it soul alignment because then you can follow your heart. Sometimes my heart tells me certain things, right? Like, it gets very exciting and stuff like that. But it's not the decision-making process that I need to go through. So now that I know how to manage that, and I'm not saying that this is 100%, bulletproof and foolproof. Like I make mistakes and sometimes I also make bad decisions, and yet those bad decisions lead to other like good things. Whereas I was stuck in a cycle where really like, shit was going down all the time. And like, I was just so tired and like, why is everything so hard for me? Well, everything was so hard for me because I didn't know who I really was. I didn't know how to listen to myself, what my intuition was telling me when it was screaming at me and when it was, just telling me to go with the flow, as stupid as it sounds. But sometimes like I came to Granada going with the flow. And then suddenly, I think last night or 2 nights ago, I sat down with my iPad. I'm like, okay, now I'm making plans for this week because there's just so much to see here. And I want to make the most out of it because I'm so starved, like I'm starved culturally. I've been, in this beautiful area, but like we don't have this amount of like churches and cathedrals and, all the good things. And I really enjoy those things. So I made a plan. Okay, what do I want to see? What do I keep for another trip? And that was kind of like, okay, and let's go again from there. So like from going with the flow, I made a plan and now I'm excited about that because every day I have something to look forward to. And it's like that, so, and it is just valid for me. So this is something that really people need to learn more about and just experiment. Again, it's an experimentation.
It is an experiment. And that's the thing, like there's no right or wrong, like you said, even if it's like in quotation marks the wrong decision, there's no such thing. It's just like you can course correct. This is never like it should never be like a life or death situation. It's just like a bullet to your head, like you have to only pick the right thing, other thing is poison. No, you can always be like, like me, I moved here, it was a good decision at the time. Now the decision to move away is best, and that's okay. And whatever people think, like, there's all of these labels, like, oh, it could be flimsy, like you don't commit, you can't finish things, or it's just like, that's a you thing. That's not a me thing. For me, it feels right in alignment, and who are we to judge? And so the more we practice it on ourselves, the more we can extend that to other people, and then, have this positive ripple effect of maybe being a sort of catalyst, small or large scale, of helping people just be kinder overall, just like be more aligned. And I mean, there's already so much happening on a global scale with the hustle culture and like late stage capitalism and all of that stuff, where we see this isn't sustainable, this isn't humane, this makes absolutely no sense to just be a human resource working yourself to the ground for somebody else's benefit. And like you have to work hard to be rewarded, to have you can't become a millionaire if you just slave away by yourself. It doesn't work. It's a collective thing. It's a thing where you also release and outsource and like grow and like work with other people. It's not about competition. It's just like so much to unlearn. And I think really, if you look back into your design, it just becomes so much easier. And I think that's the main thing where can you find a joy? Like I always try to ask myself, like, what would make me happy right now? And even if that seems very flimsy, but usually that's then also where motivation comes from, where the flow comes from, where ideas come from, where you're just at 11 p.m. just instead of forcing myself to write some more pitches because I didn't reach my quota, I was like, no, I'm just going to do a photo shoot. And then I did a photo shoot, and suddenly I had all like 5 different ideas. I wrote the pitch, and now after this wraps up, I'm just going to send it all out. And I didn't get that through making myself work. I got that by just putting furniture on my face, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the fun. It's just literally like balancing tiny chairs on my nose. That was the photo shoot.
Yeah. But sometimes we have those moments, right? Like, this is the thing. Like, it may sound crazy. It may sound like, what are you doing there? And then at the same time, it's something that just brings you joy. And then people are very attached once again, like, to the outcome, and they'll say like, oh, okay, so this will work now because it came from a creative urge, but maybe it may not work.
I don't know.
And then it comes to the next thing that then will work. Like, there's always a reason for things not working the way we think they should.
Exactly. And I always catch myself now much more aware than before. Because I was like, oh, should you really do this at 11 p.m.? Like, do you put makeup? Oh, and I was like, yeah, maybe you should put on the makeup. Maybe you should put on the. And it became this whole production where the idea was like, I need just to have a quick test shoot to show the idea. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to do the full on like makeup, whatever. And then I just did it. And the more I did it, the more fun I had, and the more props came in, the more ideas came in, the more it evolved into different things. And and I was like, even if I can't pitch it to these companies, because usually they're very square. And even if that doesn't work, I was like, I'm just going to post it everywhere. I'm just going to put it out there. Maybe somebody resonates with it. And even that, like, I have more practice. I'm like, I don't know, pitching, I'm like exercising, and just getting my work out there. Because every time I notice when I'm in those stages, my brain goes like, should you really pitch this? This isn't good enough. Like, all of these doubts come in, or like, should you do this? Maybe you should optimize this. Maybe you should wait. It will never get finished. It will just be dying, like on the vine. Or I would instantly feel like not good enough, and then I wouldn't pitch at all. So like, even if it's like not the best photo shoot, even if it's like not the right audience, I still honored my creativity. I still honored that vibration where I was like, you know what, I don't care. I just release it into space now. Like, I did the thing. I'm happy about it. It was fun, and I can use it for a portfolio, or I don't, like, whatever. But I still honored myself instead of just, this doesn't seem like a very adult thing to do. I'm just going to go to bed.
Rationalizing everything.
The energy would have been different. I would have felt much more like a failure because I didn't hit any of my, arbitrary rules. And I made myself go to bed, and then I would have probably just like ruminated on it anyway. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, nope, I'm just going to do this. It feels right.
It does. And you know what? Like, the thing for me was that changed my perspective on this whole like leap of faith taking, I would call it, is that with by Klaudia. So I started a podcast, right? It's called Creative Liberation, and I also like videotape it and all the all that stuff. And I got the first couple of episodes out, and they're like by far not what I know this will be after some time. But I needed to get started, and even the feedback after those few couple of episodes was like, it's the first time I see you. I'm like, what? Like, this was not even, this was not even good. Like, my standard, I couldn't meet my standard, and yet I knew I have to get it out, because that's the process of raising, the vibration and just bringing the joy into the process also, because not everything is joyful, like putting the lamps up sometimes can be just annoying, especially if, things are in the way. But then you suddenly, put on some nice music or like another podcast, and you're like, okay, I want to do this now. And this is how you kind of like tune into this, beautiful manifestor channeling, the collective energy, right? And it was very powerful, because the sentence like, oh, I see you, or like, oh, this suits you. Like, people keep saying this to me ever since I said, I'm leaving corporate world. I'm starting by Klaudia. I started the podcast, and I have, like, there will be events happening. And I had like a little trial on the yoga teacher training where we did like this amazing full moon ritual. Well, I kind of like organized it, and it was improvised completely, because I didn't know what kind of people would be there and all those things. And the feedback was like, I was I didn't know, should I cry now or like what is happening? Because people were so kind. They really loved it. And you could feel that, like people are really enjoying themselves. And I had 3 guys in there. I'm like, okay, this is interesting, like doing this ceremony, this ritual. And it was like very spiritual, but, like Klaudia style, let's call it this way. And like, oh, this is amazing. And then a couple of people actually came to me and they said, you absolutely, like how much, like how long did you plan that? And like that happened on the spot. And this is where I'm understanding the, just to kind of like finalize what we've been saying. But like this is what the manifestor energy is about, like coming into this wholeness with yourself, because I enjoyed myself. I did like this 1.5 hour, 1 hour, I don't remember, but like this flowy full moon thing. Same happened with the yoga classes, like my yoga teacher trainer, who's been a teacher for 48 years. She's an oldie, right? She said, like, you're a natural. And I don't believe I'm a natural. I believe I did like the inner work and I'm still doing it. And this makes me, be able and capable of doing the things that I really enjoy and that I want to bring out into the world. And I think this is what really as a manifestor, you should focus on that. Like, what do you really want? Because it is channeled from the collective if you did the inner work, because then you kind of like, let go of the distractions. And
Agreed. It's really that, when you see somebody shine because they're so in it, they're so passionate, they're like completely in a different realm of sorts. I find that so fascinating. Like this is this magnetizing thing. And I've had that where I'm just, very much in my bubble and I'm just a wild child, almost like running crazy. Like, like even when I mentioned that where I was in England at this thing where I photographed all of these students, at the first day, I was just like trying to like observe. And then this woman came up to me and she's like, why don't you take photos? Like, you're a photographer. I was like, of what? Nothing's happening. She's like, just make it happen. And I thought she was like a boss or something. So I thought she was like an order of something. I was like, okay, I can make shit happen. So like I grabbed 2 people and I like went to the tent with like all of the toys, whatever. And I like grabbed a stair, like a fold out ladder. I grabbed like a couple of plants or whatever, a plush tiger. I was like, I need to do something. And I grabbed everything. And like, I put these people like on a chair, like 2 guys next to her with all of the plants and the tiger. And suddenly I had like this Cleopatra-esque setup in the middle of this Hogwarts castle. And because I had no direction, just make something happen. And like I did, like I just, instead of taking 2 portrait photos, I just created this like ridiculous children's toys scene from, and people were like, what is going on? This is crazy. But I was just so in it. I just loved it. And everybody had so much fun because I'm like, what she's dragging? Like, why is she dragging a tiger? Why is she dragging a palm leaf? Like, why is she dragging like everybody was like, what is going on? And it was like absurd.
It's about having fun, it's about having fun collectively and enjoying the things we do. And of course we still need to do certain things that are not so pleasant, but that's part of being a human being. So but still, whatever you can control, make it fun.
Exactly. But it also like set the tone because I wasn't sure how I would, be perceived. It's always like this underlying sense of like how will people like me, yes or no. And like, because I'm this photographer, mostly photography, I find most people have this weird relationship to it because like, sure, you take selfies, that's different. But if it's a photographer, people feel this pressure to like perform, or they're like, I'm not photogenic. Like people have so much insecurity around photographers. It's really difficult. You always instantly have this blockage. And with that random thing that I set up, everybody was suddenly like, not tense anymore. Like the entire summer was so easy. Every time I pulled somebody to the side, you want to take some photos, they would be happy to. Like everybody was like, what's going on? Like I want to see what you're pulling up next. Like everybody was just happy that I would involve them because they were like, that was the stage. I set it for them. Like the entire vibe was like, this is what you get with me. I'm not serious.
Yeah. And again, like the mask is down, I guess. That's the part of the beauty of it.
Yes, exactly. And I love that. I love seeing that in other people as well, when you're just like in awe of when they're just doing things. And I like, I don't maybe care about what they're passionate about, but just watching them is beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else we haven't really talked about that you want to leave the audience with? Because I think like we wrapped it up beautifully. There's so much we discussed. So is there some...
So many nuggets, to be honest.
I know.
I just believe, working, not looking so much at others, but learning how to look at yourself. Because I've been working, for example, also with another mentor who was amazing. And she was also a manifestor. And she said to me, like, you know what, Klaudia, you don't need me. You know it all, right? Like you have the answers.
I've heard that too.
It is so cliche. But once she said that to me, and maybe it's because she's a manifestor because of the kind of work that we were doing, but it was kind of like, if she says that I already have the answers, then maybe this is what I should focus on. So I'm really, encouraging everybody to work with what works for them. And it may be different than it is for me or for you, because even here we had the discussion about the pros and cons and, the in the moment decision making, and there's so many layers to everything again. So I just believe be your own mirror, and the conditioning process is the most important thing, because then you start building up on that.
Yes. Yeah. And again, like even if you don't have all the tools, if you're trying to figure it out, or even if everything is overwhelming, you're like, I don't know what it works with my emotional planning. Like, you already, like, these are just tools to help you, but it shouldn't be another self-help project where you optimize yourself and whatever. No, you already know what's best right now. You just need to sometimes listen better to yourself, or find conducive environments to help you listen to your voice, or try it out. Like, it's an experiment, but ultimately you already know best, and nobody else can do something in your business. Like it's
no, absolutely. That's the thing. And, like really starting to respect yourself, I guess that has been my journey.
Yeah, exactly. It's about honoring yourself. Like, you are the shit. Okay. Like, you deserve to have these wild decisions. Yeah. And honor them, because, that's just really self-respect, where you're like, I trust myself. Whatever this ends up being, I can still make it happen. I can still save myself if I need to, but it's okay. Like, I own my decisions, especially when they're aligned. It will work out. Like, this deep trust, and I've got this. It might be messy. It might look ridiculous. It might feel all kinds of things, but I got this. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest thing to unbury, but we know it as kids. Every kid is like, I'm the best. Like, I can do stuff. Like, even the shy kids, they know much more about themselves, because we haven't taught them all of the things they're wrong.
Yeah. It is so beautiful. You've got this. I believe that is a great one.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. And where can people find you the easiest? All of the links will be down below, but where do you want people to see you?
So the easiest will be either probably Instagram, and it's by Klaudia, and Klaudia with a K. And if not, then there's also the podcast, the Creative Liberation Podcast. There will be episodes coming very, very soon again. But everything will be linked. So no worries to write it down.
All right. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your wisdom.
Thanks for that. That was so much fun. Again, something that was coming from a place of joy.
Exactly. All the flow, nothing scripted.
Nice. All right. So see you around.
Have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I always really love these conversations. I love the conversational type of podcast that I created, because this really resonates with me. I do not like preset questions. I like to be more in the flow, in the moment. I like to kind of let my intuition guide the conversation and see where my curiosity leads me. And I can't do that when I pre-think. And also that ties in with my human design. There's certain gates, I keep forgetting which ones they are, that really are about that in the moment. I'm splenic. I'm a splenic 4/6 manifestor, if somebody wants to look that up. Which means I am intuitively driven. I get stuff in the moment, just yes or no, danger, no danger, good person, bad person, good food, bad food, whatever. I just get this hit, and then it's gone, and it will be silent and waiting for me to act on it. And then maybe if I didn't listen or I ignored it, it will just put like obstacles in my way, but it will not speak again. It will be just like watching me. It's just like, I told you, I did tell you, like, what you doing? That's just how I feel my spleen works. But it's also about survival, and survival is usually reacting to the environment in the moment and being like alert. And that's what I am. But anyway, so yeah, I love this episode. If you want to connect with Klaudia or I, there's all of the links down below in the show notes, so you can hit us up on social media. But also remember that manifestors are not meant to respond. So we can respond. And maybe we don't have the energy. Maybe we do it later. You know, just start a conversation, and then we can see how it goes. Because it's not the typical back and forth like a podcast. You just talk, and then somebody talks like side by side with each other, but it's not a questionnaire thing, right? This is again why I don't ask questions, because the responding feels harder for us for some reason. Don't ask me why. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you a fabulous week. Bye.